frustration with some of these teams. It's just like you can't take advantage of that situation. You should be giving these boys the business, and they're not. Otto Porter only got 10 points. Gortat 2 points. Bradley Beal balling 30 points. But these guys shouldn't even be in the game. Boston should not. This should have been a game where right now you just dribbling up court and like, let's go home, let's get out of here. But you're in the fight for your life, against these guys, and they're missing 4 quality guys. That's frustrating. That would be frustrating if I was a Wizard fan. So I know who's that? I think Maestro is a Wizard fan for the Barbershop Talks podcast. So I know that got to be frustrating for somebody like him to watch them not take care of business like they need to. Now they still could win, but at this point, it's just crazy, So what I wanted to talk about. ESPN, they're 30 for 30. They ran a piece called, I think they called it the Scabs or whatever, but it was about Washington's football team and basically how in 1987 the regular NFL players went on strike. Obviously it was about money, and they're not getting the money that they want and everything, so they're going to strike. So when they decided to strike, the NFL said, you know what? Whoever wants to play, because we got a season to finish, you can come in. So there was a bunch of guys that had got cut, guys that, were working, that had played college ball, and all that stuff, that came on to some of these football teams, and they decided, to basically cross the picket line, and the actual regular NFL players did not like it, and they called them scabs. They basically disrespected them and called them scabs. So they were talking about the Washington football team because they won the Super Bowl that year, and there was 3 games that quote unquote the scab players were involved and actually had a big part in winning games. And to give you the backstory about it, because you're like, 3 games. What are you talking about, 3 games? Well, at the end of the day, the players basically collapsed and they came back and played because a lot of them was like, look, I ain't getting a paycheck, and some of them was like, I'm making a lot of money and I'm letting that just go away. Or walk away, from me. So eventually all the players broke down and came back. So that's why I'm talking about it was 3 games because they went 3-0 and that was weeks 4 through 6. So early into the season. But those 3 wins that the quote unquote scab players won play a big part in the success of the Washington football team winning the Super Bowl that year. And the bad part about it is that guys that were on that team, that when the regular players came back, they cut immediately. Washington went on to win the Super Bowl. And these guys that they cut that had a part in their season, if it wasn't for them, they wouldn't have had the success that they had. They didn't give them any Super Bowl rings. And they wanted to say, well, what happened was this type of technicality or whatever it is that they wanted, to say, but at this point, because the documentary, it was called Year of the Scab. That's what it was on 30 for 30. But they're going to get, and this is through the Score app, said that they will receive their Super Bowl rings. The exact date for the presentation hasn't been announced, so that'd be great, if we can get a date out there. But the 3-0 record of the Redskin replacement players were part of the remarkable success of the 1987 Washington football team. And now owner Dan Snyder said that they are contributors, of the Redskin history and represent an integral reason why the Lombardi Trophy came, to their facility in 1987, thanks in part To the generosity of our partners on this project, we are happy to honor these players. The replacement players were previously recognized as part of the championship team, largely due to the NFLPA members' displeasure that they crossed the picket line. Most of the replacements were cut immediately after the strike was resolved, but they did receive a share of the money for the victory. Now, it's not like they got broke off millions of dollars and everything. So obviously these guys were definitely wanting those rings. There were a couple guys that did not get cut and stayed on and actually played in the Super Bowl, so they got their rings. But the guys that got cut, like the piece said, that they didn't get their rings, and they were not a part of history. They, they were still looked at as scabs. And while these other guys came back, won the Super Bowl, and given all the credit as if these guys didn't play a part in it. So that has finally been changed, or finally being changed, and it was supposed to be turning around. I'm really hoping that each guy that was on that team is still with us right now so that they can get those rings. There's a lot of guys, I forgot his name right now, but he played quarterback for Washington as a replacement player, and all he wanted to do was play football. All these guys, they just wanted to play football. And to see a team go to the Super Bowl and you had something to do with it, of that success, and then you can't, because these aren't household names. This isn't a Doug Williams. This isn't who am I trying to think? Art Monk or anything like that. A Darryl Green or anything like that. These are Jelani Bodies. That's what they are. Regular guys. And if they're going to say, hey, I was on that Redskin team that won, right? And people, yeah, right. Where's your ring if you won? Well, what had happened, that's the whole, and then people are like, man, whatever, man, you lying. And, they'll probably pull out some pictures and everything. But this, I think, was very important, and it needs to be done. It's way overdue. We're talking about 1987, and it took you over, 20 years? Over 20 years? 30 years. You know what I'm saying? 17? Yeah. Took you over 30 years to get it right? That's not right. But I'm just glad that they're doing it. These guys deserved it, especially for what they had to go through. People mocked them. People made fun of them. People disrespected them. People looked at them as scabs, basically. The NFL players, the regular players, taunted them. I mean, I don't even know if any of those guys even thank any of those replacement players. I'm sure some of them did, but long overdue, much needed, should have been done a long time ago. Shouldn't have to be a new owner. Shouldn't have to be talked about multiple times. So I'm sure this conversation came up, and the piece that was done last year, I'm sure helped that out. Give those men their rings. Because some of them guys did more in those 3 games than guys that was on the team before they decided to strike. So I'm glad. I am glad for that. So, good story. Hopefully a good ending at this point. And now these guys can, tell their grandkids and everything and show them and be like, look, your old man, he used to do it back in the day. I did it. And here's the proof, on it. So congratulations to them getting that right and giving those men those rings. Washington football team. And I slipped up and I said the name earlier. So Washington football team. Congratulations to the replacement players. I'm going to stop calling them scabs. So we are at that point right now. Mocha Bella's favorite part, the Big L Award. So the Big L Award, like we talked about earlier, is basically about the Big Loser Award. Someone who does something very loserish. Not to say that they are a total loser, but their actions was very loserish at that time. So we are at that moment, and we are going to go out west. Yes, to the West Coast, California, and the City of Angels, which is known as LA. Now, at the Staples Center is where the Los Angeles Lakers reside for home games. And at the Staples Center is where Los Angeles Laker fans reside to watch Lakers games. On one particular night, maybe new, doesn't matter, there's an usher, and I'm glad I don't have the name, but there's an usher that's out there checking tickets. Now, not just checking any ticket, not in the third level, not in the second level, not at the beginning of the first level. No, on the floor. Particular fan comes by. He asks this particular fan, may I see your ticket? I need to see your ticket. I need to see if you actually have a ticket. Now, I know you're thinking like, Dwayne, well, what's the problem? He's the usher. That's what he's supposed to ask. Not for everybody. This usher had the nerve, had the audacity, had the kahunas to ask Jack Nicholson if he had a ticket to be on the floor, to be in a seat on the floor at a Lakers game. Jack Nicholson, the same Jack Nicholson that gave us Batman. The first movie, Batman. He was the Joker. The same man that gave us A Few Good Men. You Can't Handle the Truth. That Jack Nicholson. The same man that gave us The Shining. The one who flew over the cuckoo nest. The Departed. Hoffa. I can go on and on and on and on. Not only is just the movies, but everyone knows he's a Laker fan. And all you have to do, Mr. Usher, man, has had a TV for the past 10 years of your life, 15 years, whatever it is, and you watched a Laker game that was nationally televised. If you're telling me you ain't got a TV for your entire life, then okay, but I don't believe it. He's only on TV every freaking time the Lakers are playing. And you're going to ask him if he has a ticket. I hope someone talked to him. I hope someone brought him to the side and said, you know who that is? You know who that is? Do you know who that is? I'm just going to say, do you know who that is? That is Jack Nicholson. Of course he got a ticket, man. Matter of fact, he don't even need a ticket. But surprisingly, Jack had a ticket. It was all crumpled up and everything like a piece of paper. Probably because he just put it in his back pocket just to sit there and be like, you know what, I'll never need this. But you know what? Let me just take it just in case it's an usher who hasn't been around ever since time began to know that I've been to almost every Laker game possible. And you're going to ask Jack Nicholson to show you his ticket. So, for whoever hired this dude, the usher that worked the floor that asked Jack Nicholson, the original Joker in movies, not on TV, in the movies, you're going to have to get this Big L Award.
See? Another loser.
Indeed as well, Lopan. How dare you? Now, I'm for like, look, I can't assume you know who this. This is Jack Nicholson. He's on TV as much as the players. I don't even know the dude that be sitting next to him with the hat that be at all the NBA games. But I know if I see the hat, hey,